Welcome back to the Politics and Media Show. The government is considering whether to ban khat, the vegetable leaf which when chewed produces a mild high, rather like amphetamines. At the moment the leaf is legal and it's predominantly used by the Somali and Yemeni communities. Some experts say that a ban is unnecessary and it will be rather like banning alcohol because some people get drunk. Others say the leaf is more dangerous and can lead to serious addiction. Let's take a look at this report.
It looks like an ordinary leaf. But when khat is chewed, it produces a mild euphoric high. Here in Yemen, the khat industry employs a staggering 1 in 7 workers. But anti-khat campaigners blame the drug for many of the country's problems, and these activists in Haraz have been taking matters into their own hands. But it's not just in Yemen that men while away the hours chewing khat in rooms like these. Here in Britain, an estimated 90,000 people chew the intoxicating leaf, most of them from the Yemeni, Ethiopian and Somali communities. Unlike most countries in the West, khat is legal in the UK and can be bought over the counter at grocery stores. £13.8 million of the herb were imported to the UK last year, bringing in £2.8 million in tax revenues. Some Somali groups say this is wrong as, according to them, khat is harmful to health and causes family breakdowns. But the government has so far resisted calls for a ban on the natural drug. On Wednesday, the official drugs advisory body dismissed the idea of a ban, saying there was not enough evidence that khat causes health problems. Some campaigners accused the UK government of not taking khat seriously because it only affects minority communities. They're going to keep pushing for the government to help them root out khat from their communities for good.
Well, with me to discuss the issues are Dr. Nasir Warfa, Senior Lecturer at Queen Mary University, Abukar Awale, Director of the Ban Khat UK campaign, and Duale Yusuf of the Somali Unity Council. Welcome to the programme, all of you. Just let me ask you this first of all, Dr. Nasir. Do you think that the government is resisting this because there simply isn't a medical case?
Yes, I think what you have to understand is that unlike many other countries, when the government is making a major decision on drugs, normally they based on that decision on medical evidence. In some countries, they do not have to actually brief the harm drugs cause to health, mental health. If they want to ban it, they just go ahead with. Here in the UK, the policy is informed by evidence and science. And the science of khat research now is quite premature, so there's not enough evidence to say khat's actually bad for mental health, therefore you should ban it. And the kind of evidence I'm talking about is, if you want to think about a parallel example, is smoking and cancer, lung cancer. If you smoke, the more you smoke, the more you're likely to get lung cancer. You cannot say the same thing with khat. You cannot say the more you chew khat, the more you're likely you're going to get psychosis. So that evidence is not there, and I think that's why the government is quite reluctant to ban at this stage.
Abukar, I mean, you're strongly in favour of a ban. Why do you think that's necessary if the medical evidence isn't yet convincing?
I think we need to look at there are few clear medical evidence of medical harm has been reported in khat. And I'll point out to you and to the audience a report called Khat-Related Deaths. 14 cases here in UK. They're not related. They don't live same area. The only one factor they have all in common is excessive khat use. They all died. And I think this decision of Advisory Council was more of politically motivated. I think there's enough evidence to recommend ban. But it's a shame. And if you look back, the previous report in 2005, the Advisory Council at that time suggested there was some concern in terms of evidence of medical and social harm, but at that time they have concluded their report because it was not spread into wider society, we are not going to ban it. I think that's a very clear discrimination, and I hope the government acts and ban this drug in line with the other rest of European countries.
Duale, what do you think the sort of feeling among the community that you represent is on this issue?
Majority of Somali communities, the khat substance has devastated. It causes divorce and it causes less self-esteem for the community, and it causes a lot of havoc for the community itself. As far as the Somali people concerned, Qad is part of the problem of the civil war in Somalia, and it fueled. And here in UK, yes, if you go to the where the Chad Jews, where they live and how they live, you can see they become like alcoholic people, and they are not part of the society. They live their own world, and it devastates many young people who don't have jobs, and many men they you know, are part of for the families. I've seen young boys who are complaining about missing their parents during the evening time, where the parents to give, you know, help for what they call homework, and this is one of the problem. Another thing, you know, how much money that the community is spending now? It costs up £3 or £4. One, what they call it, one punch, yeah, one punch, and that these people, they don't work. How did they get this money? So sometimes they go and sell the drugs. You know, some young people, they have to sell the drugs, and this is one. It is one of the big problems. So we ask to the British government, as the other European country banned, they should ban it. Why not Britain? If other Europeans have seen it has been affected, not only Somalians but the Africans.
Dr. Nasir, do you think that one thing that might happen here if the government went down this road is that none of the problems would disappear, but added to them would be that people continue to use cat illegally, and that the kind of economy would become, which is now an open economy, a taxable economy, would become a black economy?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to make my position clear. So I'm not for or against the ban of cat, but I think that is the concern. I think if you ban cat, I think many experts are arguing that actually, you know, the problem is going to get worse because, you know, the community will get criminalized. We've got enough young people in prisons now. In Feltham prison, you've got a large number of young Somalis, men Somalis, who knows that could actually double or triple. That is what some arguing for. If that is going to happen or not, I don't know. But generally, I think the direction is not that we've spent a lot of money on drug control, not only cat, you know, cannabis and cocaine and heroin, and all these drugs seem to be getting not better with the controls. And I think what experts from the medical sciences are now saying that we need to spend a fraction of that money on prevention and treatment and discourage people to use it. And those who misuse them, make services available to them. There's no single cat clinic in the UK. We've got, you know, a lot of clinics for other drug services. In Sweden, where cats actually banned, you've got cat clinic for people who misuse cat and abuse it. And I agree with Awale and my other colleagues. You know, cat is a big problem in the Somali community. We do have a lot of social issues. You know, family breakdowns is one of them, partly because it's also within this context, people not using the way they use traditionally for recreational sports. So they are more likely to be unemployed than they, you know, gather in Murphy's and they sit down and they chew cat because they're not going to work tomorrow. They're going to chew cat throughout the night. So the modern pattern of cat use is quite destructive. What is not really that we need to think about is how to deal with, and the solution. I think that's where I differ from Awale. Yes, problems, how do we deal with? Criminalizing it could be one of the options, but what are the other options that we need to explore before we reach that stage? What we have now is from one extreme to the other, either ban it or free. There's a lot of different options in the middle that we need to explore.
Isn't that part of the problem here, really, that you're making a connection between problems in the Somali community, which runs cat use, causes family breakdown, but really the line of causality is unemployment, racism, discrimination, results both in cat use and family discrimination. So aren't we pulling at the wrong lever here?
I think we need to be very mindful. There are Somali communities who do really well. There are youngsters who are going to universities. And Somali communities keep London moving. The most of bus drivers, the taxi drivers. There are a lot of communities who are doing positive works. But one factor is the non-working class in Somali community are cat users. And my point in terms of criminalization, we've got two choices. The way it is now, legality of cat is sending a clear message to young people. It's legal. Uncle Ali is using it. It's relatively cheap. No regulation, no warning signs. It must be safe. That's the message young people are getting. And we are saying, let's send a clear message to young people. Government is here to protect you, regardless of your faith and your background, because it's bad. And the other point, in terms of criminalization, just to add up, the cat is a smuggler's nightmare. It's the size of it. It takes 48 hours to go rubbish. Once you ban it in UK, it will be highly likely to deliver here with huge quantities. I think it's easy to control, and I think the government should take in line with the rest of European world. And I'm ashamed to call myself a British, and because we should be leading on this field, protecting young, vulnerable. And how can the government say, let's integrate and be part of society, and we are all in it together, and the big society theory, and when it comes to Somali community and their issues, no, it's only affecting them. I think that's a disgrace, and that rule must be changed.
Duale, I mean, you've been talking to some people over the weekend, I understand, and there are voices in the community who are against the ban.
Yes, and I met some of the guys who drew the chat. They said it will devastate us, where we sell it, we trade it, and we make a lot of money out of it. So we lose that trade. But if you look the whole the community, they're really against it, because if you look how it harms the community, it devastates. It causes a lot of death, and it's true. If there is no evidence, yes, we have the evidence. There are many people who lost their health, especially they lose their teeth, they lost their mind. It causes a lot of mental health, and we have seen that. There's a young men who have been working. When they start chewing chat, they become different person. So that is part of it. If the government cares about this, they should ban as the other Europeans. That's what we're asking, honestly. I've been in Sweden, I've been in Netherlands, and I've been in Norway. People, they don't have it. Some people are smuggling, but it's very rare. People, they don't feel it, you know. If you chew the chat, it's not important. But what we're saying now is, whenever it comes to any issue of Somalians, either the problem of Somalia back home or here in Chad, the government does not care. And that's what we're complaining now.
Trouble is, though, what you're saying is give us a good kicking because you give everybody else a good kicking. I mean, that's the kind of equality you're talking about, isn't it? Because actually, that's not what's happening in other places. Cannabis, which is, you know, widely used across the entirety of British society, is actually taking a step towards decriminalisation, not towards further criminalisation. Alcohol, of course, you can get smashed out of your brains. It leads to family breakdown. It leads to mental health. It leads to addiction. But there's no law about that. There's public awareness campaigns. So what you're really saying is you've got to treat the Somali community much more harshly than you treat other drug users in the society.
No. Actually, I think it's quite unfair to compare alcohol with khat. Khat is a recognized drug by World Health Organization, 1989. And for some bizarre reasons, the two chemicals of khat are banned, cathine and cathinone. And when you combine them together with our eyes wide open, the government is saying, no, it's part of your culture, just chew it. I think things will get definitely better. We came from dictatorial background where once you say to the Somali community, you will get in trouble with this, stay away from it, it's illegal. I think many people will stay away. And just in case 20% of it goes to extreme or harder drugs or maybe start to smuggle it, at least we will save the other 80%. But what's more important is we will save the younger generations who are thinking now it's okay, it must be safe because it's legal, which is far from the truth. And I say this as an ex-addict myself.
If you make a correction here, so WHO, I think, was the League of Nations at that time did, consider the illegalization of khat to make it illegal in the late 1920s, 30s, and they actually went against. Then they had another meeting in 1974 to consider whether they should classify khat, and they went against it as well. They had a fourth meeting, I think, in it was Madagascar in 1982, and again I think they went against the classification of khat. So WHO does not As far as they're concerned, cat is legal. So, and this is the same position as the UK. So the UK is more in line with the WHO position that there's not enough evidence to actually ban cat. So this, we talk about hypothesis. We think cat is bad for mental health, but we don't know yet. Actually, it could be good for mental health, it could be bad, we don't know. So unless you get that good science, what we're talking about is what we call hypothesis, is speculations. And I think that is what we're dealing with.
To be honest,
that's part of the evidence. And the second one is the point we talked about, how shall we deal with it? Why don't we explore these different options that might actually reduce the misuse of cat within the community, that we can start education in schools. I agree with you. I've been back home, Somalia, I've seen it. 90% of people with chewing cat is destroying the society, it's destroying people. I've seen with my own eyes. 7 o'clock in the morning, like a child, 7 years old child, going to Melfish, buying cat back home. I have seen that with my own eyes. The problem is, for 50 years, we argue for banning or not banning, and we don't do anything in between. So what happened was that things get from bad to worse, to deterioration, to even worse, because nobody's doing anything about it, because it's illegal, that's it. So we need to move away from the corners, these extremes, and come towards the center and start doing something about it, both within the community here and back home.
Thank you.
Just
what I want to add, the Somalians, I mean, we're saying it, but nobody thinking about it. I mean, if the government implements legislation, even to reduce it or to increase the price of it, maybe it will reduce the charges, and that might help. But why are the Europeans, and including America, banned for cat? And why not UK? That is the question we want to ask the British government. All other Europeans has banned. Well, even last year, I think the January 5th of 2013, Netherlands has banned.
Why? That decision is really bizarre. It's bizarre. It's the most bizarre decision, because you've got in a country that has cannabis shops on the street, free cannabis and weed, that is 20 times stronger than cat, and you ban cat, partly because it's foreign. Cat is foreign to them. That's why they ban it.
But the people complain.
I suppose one answer to that question might be this: that many European governments are more viciously Islamophobic than the British government is allowed to be because of it. That especially, and the Dutch example is a particularly good example of this, although we could say the same about France, is that they find this a convenient additional way to kick a section of the Muslim community. That's one possible answer.
It could may well be, but something which Dutch thought and they're just going to do not favor for the Somali community. Actually, Somali community is celebrating in Netherlands now, and they welcome the ban. And for your point, if Great Britain is so tolerant to the immigrant and their choice of drug,
I wouldn't say that. I don't think we can go that far.
Why don't we allow Rastafarians to have their marijuana?
That is a point I was making, that actually we've stepped back from, or we're moving towards decriminalisation of cannabis, which is an interesting thing, because it kind of raises the question that Dr. Nasir is raising, that all right, we all want to deal with this, but the question is, will criminalisation be the most effective way of doing it? Won't public education, health provision, and so on be a more effective route to this? That's the question, isn't it?
One other point we have to remember this is, and just before the election, Conservative made a pledge. They didn't say we will consider it. They didn't say we will rely on the evidence of this advisory council of drugs. They said, if we win election, we will ban cat. And I think government owns to keep that promise to young Somalis who are trying to integrate and get on with and well in life, rather than stick in the military. There could be more Farahs sitting.
Might be a lesson that the other sections of the community have learned about election promises may be coming your way.
But also, I think, it's a good point. But the government's in a catch-22. They get the pressure from the community, from you and others in the community, but they have to base their decision on science. So they come to the scientists. The scientists will say, not enough evidence yet. Well, why don't you spend more time and find out the real evidence? So they catch-22. They're in the middle. They get caught. So you guys saying why are you not doing something because you guys don't care about us, which is not really the case. They are doing something about it. They have this report coming out. You have got a whole advisory council exploring it. They talk to us, our scientists. They are doing something about it. We advise them based on the current evidence. You shouldn't be banned. So what? So I think you've been quite harsh on the government from that perspective.
I think in terms of this report and with the advisory council on misuse of drugs, I think we strongly believe it was more a political move rather than evidence-based. We have submitted so much evidence of death, of destructions to the community, and they concluded there is no evidence. The amount of cat which comes to this country is increasing since 2005. The number of young people who are using is increasing. Britain would be some sort of smuggling hub for the Western world. There will be more crimes, but this bunch of academics, I'm sorry to call them, they are not really, they are not in connection with the real world. They do few figures here and there. They haven't get deeply in touch with the community. They haven't had the suffering and crying of Somali mothers who are suffering domestic violence, absent fathers, young people who are failing from the schools, lack of role models. There are so many distractions, and I'm sorry to say it, but we don't have no confidence over their judgment just because in 2005 they said we will not ban Khat because it's not spreading to wider society. That's why we are organizing this demonstration on the 23rd of February. Run for your life. We hope Mo Farah will come on board and we will fight all the way. We have to win this.
I think in the final judgment, we should bring all the community together, even judges and the ulama and the educated people, and we have to sit together and get the solution about it. Because if the government can't make any decision, we should make as a community decision. We should sit together because we see the community suffering, and if the government cannot help the community, we should stand, and that's what we're here today. To tell the British government and also the Conservative government. I agree with him. They pledged to us that they're going to ban after they get the power. And that pledge, we don't see
there's
it.
Procedure, something the government's power is quite limited. That's the beauty of democracy.
But
they make promises.
If you can't fulfill the promise,
it's a procedure they have to go through it.
But at the end of the day, the decision lies with them. And you can seek advice from the academics, but it's up to their decision. And let me just say this point. We came from far from since 2005. This community is on fire. We will challenge any decision, and if the government aligns with the academics, we will go through judicial review. Our lawyers are ready. We will challenge through the court, and the only issue this government has to answer is how can you, two chemicals which are controlled, you are protecting from young mainstream white British boys, when you combine them together, how can you say, because it affects only Somali community, let them chew? That's unacceptable.
Again, I think that's slightly unfair. So what is banned is the actual chemical catin and catinon, and that is the dry tablet. So if you have tablets that contain catin and catinon, that's banned. But you're talking about fresh leaves. So any chemicals in salads or in the Khat, it's not really banned.
Okay,
so
I'm
even
going to have to leave that point there because that's all we've got time for. Thank you for joining us on the Politics and Media programme. Do come back next week.